Thank you, Dr. Kreitzer. It is certainly a privilege to be here and stand before you this morning. I think it was 1988, 89. I was in a bit of a transition in my life. I was looking at what to do next. I had taught 6 years in the state of Indiana in middle school. I had gotten my master's degree in secondary administration from Ball State University nearby, and I had gone to seminary. Then my wife and we went to the Philippines, and I worked in a sports ministry similar to Athletes in Action for about 6 years. And then we were looking at what we would do next. And I found out that about 5 minutes from our home was a little school called Brent. And I just went over one day, and I met a dear friend. He became a very close friend, Father Gabriel Dimach. And the next day, they called me to sub. And I never left that school since then. I've always been a person that has sought to be positive. The new term today we would use would be transformative. When I saw a negative, I would want to make it a positive. When I saw sadness, I would want to bring a bit of happiness. When I saw an awkward situation, I wanted to bring in a bit of levity. So, throughout the last nearly 30 years working in Brent, I've taken great pride in many things that have happened. But my greatest pride of all, has been in my family. My wife, Terry, who's here this morning, our 3 children, Michelle, Michael, and Jonathan. They're now all married, educated, and working. And thank God they're working. I'm telling you, it will be the biggest raise of your entire life. You can't duplicate it. Your school can't duplicate it. A board can't duplicate it. It's heavenly. It's heavenly. Michelle, our eldest, she was born in Indiana. And first child, we'd done all the things. I was the coach, and so we, when she started into labor, we rushed to Ball State Medical Center, and I was ready for that long, enduring coaching, reading newspapers, doing all the things that you're supposed to do. But then she delivered the baby within 2 hours. Amazing. 2 years later, we find ourselves in the Philippines, and of course, we know that first child, 2 hours, we're going to have to get to the hospital quickly. So we had everything arranged, and back in 1982, it was unusual for the husband to be in the delivery, but we'd worked everything out. We were going to go to this Makati Medical Center. So just after a Bible study, we were driving home, and she started contractions. And so we rushed to the hospital, and really only 15 minutes because it was in a Sunday evening. We got there, we went up to the 5th floor, kind of a circular building area, and they took Terry two rooms down, and then I went to the other direction, and I got in there, and I was rushing, and I got on the hospital garb and everything, and put the mask on, put everything around me, got the gloves on, rushed out, went down 2 doors, and there she was, lying on her side. I went up, I started rubbing her back, and such a special moment. She turned, she looked at me. I looked in those beautiful dark brown eyes, and I was just overwhelmed. And a thought came to me. My wife doesn't have dark brown eyes. You want to be transformational. I kept rubbing her back. By that time, 2 nurses stood beside me. And I said to her, continue to breathe slowly. Be as relaxed as you can. Everything's going to be fine. And in a few minutes, the other doctor will be in. Even as a small child, I wanted to alter circumstances. I grew up in Indiana, but my heritage goes back to the South because my parents were from South Carolina and Tennessee. If you've read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, and there's a chapter 6, that talks about the Scot-Irish that migrated from Europe into the Alleghenies and across into Kentucky and Tennessee and in Harlan, Kentucky. And that was my family heritage. Dirt farmers, very poor. He called it a culture of honor. My brother and 2 younger sisters. My parents never made it past 4th grade. My father worked in a factory. My mother was a waitress. Our family was racked with alcoholism, and just never had money. Never had enough to continue to pay utilities and whatnot. There's a book. I've been writing this book for a long time, and it's about my family. It's about my heritage. Unfortunately, J.D. Vance wrote Hillbilly Elegy, and if you get a hold of that book, that's my life. A different generation. I came from his mother's generation, but that's my story. That's my life. When I was about 10 years old, living out in the country, my brother, 2 sisters, we were home alone. It was Christmas Eve. Parents were gone, running out of fuel oil. No tree, no Christmas tree, no gifts, whatever. And so I decided, okay, we're gonna do something. So I put together that we're going to take about 30 minutes. We're going to go around the house. We're going to scour. We're going to look for gifts. And then we're going to come back and exchange gifts. And that's what we did. And in the meantime, I got a candle. I put some things around. We got in a circle. We exchanged gifts. I think I got a quarter of an orange. That was actually from myself because I found an orange and I wanted part of it. And then I got a piece of a Mounds bar. We sang carols. Lit the candle, sang Silent Night, and really had a very special time, able to change the narrative a bit. After I went to Brent, you know, when I first got to Brent, one of our claims to fame was that we were in old dormitories. And so every classroom, that was about 38 square meters, had a restroom and showers. So we could literally put our entire population on the toilet or in a shower at any one time. It was really special. But we started, I'd become headmaster. We had found some land, and we worked out a negotiation, and we started construction. And that construction lasted for just over 2 years. During that time, I would stay to school till about 3 o'clock and then head out for an hour south of Manila and be a part of what was going on, sat in all the construction meetings, this type of thing. Did that for 2 years. But just about 6 months before we were ready to open, I could see that the entire community had become somewhat disillusioned and, you know, is it really going to happen? teachers, do I have a place to live? Will everything be finished? Because people would drive by and they'd see this unfinished place. So I decided to throw a big party. We had all the construction workers meet on a Friday. Just like this gathering, over 1,000 workers. And I gave a rousing speech. Also, we had a bag of food that they could take home that day, and gave them 2 days off and said, come back and you're going to work even harder. I think I could have been elected mayor of Binyan City nearby that day. And then the next day, we had a little festival. We had made one room a type of a model classroom. One classroom, and we had a tunnel going to it safely. And on another area, we had food, hot dogs, hamburgers. We had pony rides. I'd advertised these pony rides. Actually, they were just small horses, but we could call them ponies. And at the end of that, we had a nice concert by our faculty band, and Fleetwood Mac song, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow, which my wife sang. And we had fireworks, and I love fireworks. And so anyway, it seemed to change everything. People got a little more optimistic, and 6 months later, we were able to open the school. And now today, after these number of years, we have a very beautiful purpose-built school, and I wanted to carry on that tradition. So during our International Food Festival, which we gather approximately 3,000 people from the Brent community, we have all the activities just on steroids that we had years ago. And then at the end of that, we again sing, Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow, and we have our fireworks. And so that's in remembrance. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our tradition. And it's to look not just at the past, but of course, into the future. And so as I leave you this morning, I leave you I've taken a little liberty with the Apostle Paul, where he talks about our life and what we try to do as we seek to not write on letters on stone, but we write letters on the hearts of those that we live and work with. And so this has been my calling and my ministry, and I hope it's been an encouragement to you. Good morning, and God bless you all.